been a couple of years since we've been up here for an important decision.
All right, this is On the Record, Monopoly 2023. Mark Sabat, what are your names?
Colin Walters.
William Hicks.
Current members of the High Council and Founding Fathers, going over a possible dispute between the West Block and other members currently playing the game.
West Block v. Matt Gibson.
Yeah, basically. I'm just gonna get this in the center almost, so it's a somewhat accurate recording. Okay. We're here to discuss the matter of the forming of the West Block, in which the rule in question is concerning whether or not the West Block counts as an individual player or an entity collective of players, therefore not making it an individual player. By rule, this year amendment states... In MA 23/16 pace management, with 3 players remaining, all contracts are void, replacing the current 2-player rule. Background 2022, Travis, Justin, and Noah all contracts reducing rent by 90%. So 3 people remain, contracts were allowed, although Noah and Justin wished to end contracts. Travis would not consent, and others would not put their game at a disadvantage by terminating. So the question today is whether or not the West Block represents a one individual player or multiple players altogether. So... Understandably, for transparency, 2 of the members here are members of the West Block.
Oh, you're part of it?
Issue. No, I didn't sign.
Yes,
You did sign
just
it.
one.
No, you did.
I didn't.
Oh, never mind, only one.
I, Colin Walters, have signed on to the West Block membership.
Yeah.
I have not.
Is that your name?
William Hicks have not signed into the West Block
I
Alliance.
wasn't catching that.
It did.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a Google Pixel.
So to be clear, if West Block is a person, these would not be valid.
If West Block was a person,
Or
well, the question is, are Mac, David, and Charlie, because did Caleb sign with you guys?
I don't think Caleb.
Caleb,
I
I
think
believe
Caleb's trying to pull what I'm doing, which is go lone wolf.
I don't know if
I think
Caleb
that's his
did.
right there.
Is that?
Or, I think that's his. I
I'm
remember
not
it being
sure.
short.
Yeah, it might be Caleb.
It might be Caleb.
So if
Because if it is a person, then it would be valid because all the things we signed were to join into a contract with West Block.
One thing
Yeah.
to keep in
Am I
mind,
understanding
there's
that?
nothing in the contract that is also stating that each person is becoming like one person.
Yes.
So from the looks of it, it seems like everyone's playing it as like individuals. And they're
So,
not, all not combined.
From my understanding, the idea is we created an LLC, which is not a contract, right? But is pretty much making a person, which is, at least we can view it legally, as the West Block is a person. And then we
West
each...
Block is the rest, people that are not Mac.
Not technically, no. That is what is
West
practically
Block?
speaking.
Let's go over the
So
definition of
what I
West
would
Block
say
real quick.
West Block is, right,
Okay.
is it is a entity that we made up, like a company,
Okay.
right? Kind of like, and pretty much what we did is we made a legal person, right?
Okay.
And then what we did is we signed a contract with that entity. So the entity becomes pretty much a player. So when we make a contract with West Block, it has the same bearing as if I made a contract
So
with
now
you.
we're creating a new player.
I would say you're creating a new player at this point, correct?
Yes.
Which
That
is
player,
which I
that's
believe
not
is
gonna
so,
work then,
but that's
because
not... It's not against the
against the
precedent.
rules.
That's
yeah.
because in order for they have
But
to be
I might not
players.
be understanding that differently though. Like what did Travis argue to? That's my
Nothing,
understanding.
because I told him not to talk.
Okay, but that was my understanding with it, is that we all have individual contracts with West Block. So that is why they're legal. It is not multiple people all in one thing. It is us making individual contracts with that organization, with that item, with that whatever you call it.
But that still is creating a new person.
Not necessarily. So that
So
was
what-
how I was
That's
thinking
a
it
new
to
entity.
visualize it. But I
So
don't
what
know
are
if
the
that's technically
implications then?
Then that means like
If
this
if
is
a member
new
of the
person.
West Block lands on, let's say, Mac's property,
Mhm.
cannot pay it, is it the responsibility of the members of the West Block to now pay said missing amount? Or if, let's say, Mac lands on an individual property as a member of the West Block, are they now required to pay that individual player, right? Or do they put the money into the LLC
that's a good question.
or
Because
the
if Mac
incorporation?
lands on a property in the West Black Alliance thing,
Mhm.
then he's gonna have to like divide. Well, I guess that would be his responsibility, but that would have to be divided
So
by like
what
8.
I believe it would be then is we create pretty much a trust.
Okay.
And then that trust would be whatever we put into it. We can put $1,000 into it, we can put $1 into it. Or a property. Whatever property we decide to put into that trust, that is underneath that umbrella, right? So if I were to say West Block exists, right now has nothing in it, I'm going to put all my properties in it. Now, if my player were to land on another person's property to MAC, that money would come out of the trust, not my personal bank account.
Wow.
And we could theoretically keep stuff separate, but other than the fact that it says we
So
cannot.
you're essentially making a pool now for the West Block. The West Block is keeping a pool now so that everyone is contributing in, and
I believe that would be the implication.
and so when, let's say, someone would hypothetically go bankrupt,
so that would be the thing is
they
that you
take
could
money out of that pool.
So technically, the company could go bankrupt before the player.
Yes.
You could decide to put half your money into it, and even if the corporation went bankrupt, your player would still have half the amount of money. That's why it would be the individual commitment is important. It's not
so now the game will be everyone will be contributing money here and there into
No.
business.
All of it is in the West Block.
It would
by their article of incorporation.
Everyone's assets that is a part of the West Block thing is now in.
So what I would clarify is I would say the structure, the implications would be that you could do it the way I described it with 50-50. But the way this one specifically is set up is that it could not be that way. But theoretically, you could make an LLC that says 50% or whatever you decide to put in.
Wow.
You could theoretically do that, and then that would be just a trust fund.
Okay, so what we're implying is that each individual member is still basically a board, right? A trust, we'll consider it.
And we each made a contract with this entity.
Okay.
And the entity, yeah. So that's pretty much where I understand it is. So the whole thing is, do we have the authority to create an entity that we decide has legal power to ourselves?
Yes.
It doesn't have any legal power to the board in general. It's just we decide it has some kind of legal.
Essentially, I mean, I'm pretty sure there has been cases of that happening in the past. It's just that now this is like a bigger scale, and so now people
making it formal.
Yeah.
So my point of view, obviously, I have a conflict of interest, but my point of view is that it is not specifically restricted. I think we have had smaller scale versions of this in the past, like you were saying. So I would say it is technically, in my opinion, it is technically at least 50-50. Is at least arguable that this is something that has happened in the past, it is possible to do, and this is valid.
The issue, though, is that how...
And I would say it would be a next year amendment issue. That's what my opinion
would be. Sure, this is going to be a next year amendment issue.
But this
now,
contract is set in stone. Well, there has to be something to get rid of this contract.
Well, the members have to dissolve the West Block.
Well, that's the thing, is that a majority would be able to do it, so it would not be a...
But that contract is still in effect.
Going back to the implications, it would not be a last year Travis
Nothing
thing.
is in the contract of... Like, there's no time limit on that contract, so that contract is something that everyone is going to have to keep in mind.
So you're saying that you think we legally have to have a cessation?
I mean, I'm not saying you... I mean, I would recommend it. I can't do anything... Y'all can't do anything about it now.
Yeah.
So... But just know that, just keep in mind, this is going to be constantly, the way that it is written as is going to be in effect. And so...
Yeah, I would say once again, though, it's the idea that it does preserve... It is not like we're all one person now. We're not one player, right? We still have very much autonomy. We can all leave if we vote on it, and majority would do that if we were all, so and we all individually made that decision ourselves.
But can members, the main question that we consider, can members of the West Block appoint one player to run all the assets of the West Block? Since technically, all of your properties and stuff is not owned by you anymore.
Yeah.
It's owned by the West Block.
Yeah.
Yeah. You, as an individual, do not own anything.
So then it would be a group effort then.
Right?
Yeah.
So what do you really own?
Or can we?
Because then I would consider, if that is the case, the West Block is one player. Technically, all of your assets are together by this definition. Yeah. All properties, monies, debts, and contracts are shared by members. Right? Everything is in one collective.
So yeah, it'd be a collective governance until, like, for instance, like if we were to say we want to pay this debt or whatever, it would be collective governance until it doesn't work, and at that point we would dissolve instantly. So we would instantly just say, all right, we're out. So it's a very fine line of individual cooperation versus conglomeration. It really is.
So
like I said, my thing is I would say like 60% of each says let it go. 40% says no, But the fact that there's nothing specific against it, and we have never dealt with this, would say let it stand. But it's for you guys to decide permanently, or
It's for
final
tonight.
say for
I
tonight.
because technically you're an individual player, right? You didn't sign on to the West Block,
I didn't sign.
and then there is no technical organization with the other guys, right? With Mac, Caleb.
There's no technical. They have some sort of other.
But they're not
Well, I
an
would say-
organization. They're still individual play. They have deals with each other,
So-
but they're not an individual. They're not in a corporation.
Legally speaking, here, this is an interesting question. Is the West Block allowed to bar Mac?
Bar.
Are we allowed to prevent Mac and his members from joining? Because
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Right? Because technically,
It's not. You'd have to write it up.
yeah. I mean, you
Okay.
could just not sign contracts with them.
Because I was just thinking it's one of those things where it's kind of like an open thing, and in order to argue that you're allowed to do this, you have to also argue that anybody can join. But I don't know. I don't
But then
think
they
it's,
would have to sign a contract.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
So-
So that discard that. Then.
Finally, so our final decision would be the
I
West
am
Block
for
is considered one individual,
an individual.
one player.
And then that individual gets dissolved when that hits bankrupt. When the whole company hits bankrupt. Which, keep in mind,
Yes,
everyone would have to. Everyone would have to be like 0.
I believe so.
So then, like,
but I
if
believe we were.
Noah
counting-
runs out of money, nothing happens. Travis runs out of money, nothing happens.
Well, theoretically, if he did run out of money, he would be bankrupt. But this is just kind of like it.
He himself would be bankrupt.
Yes.
So now it's like, what is the state of the players that are forming the conglomerate?
So all debts are shared.
Yeah.
So we would have
So
to
they're
contribute
not-
to pay
You
off
would have
that
to
debt.
contribute to pay off the debt
Okay.
because they're all one player.
So theoretically, if he did go bankrupt, he would actually be out. But we would not be allowed to do that unless we all did that. Unless
Okay.
we all went bankrupt or voted out.
And
And we
then,
were like,
so someone would just be covering. Someone would be covering for him. And then,
yes.
Okay.
It would essentially become a one-on-one loan
Mm-hmm.
to that. It would be the entity is making a one-on-one loan with Noah, and we already. And it would, the only reason it would be allowed is because it would be a pre-made thing.
Okay,
It
so
wasn't
what-
on the spot. It was
So,
like
so to sum up, so we can go back downstairs.
Mhm.
Right. Technically, there are still, considering this as one player,
Mhm.
there are still 4 players left.
Yeah.
No, there's me. Oh, Caleb's part of it, right? So
He's-
then there would be me, the conglomerate, Mac, Charlie,
Charlie.
and David.
Yes,
So 5.
5 players still,
Yeah.
technically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Therefore, this can all stand.
Mhm.
If a member of all properties are shared, right?
Yeah.
So you still, I would say, you still retain it,
the ownership.
the ownership of it. You're still responsible for the items you have.
Yes.
However, it's owned by the entity.
Mhm.
Therefore, if you owe something, it is the responsibility of all members to try to pay off that debt.
Until otherwise voted on. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But you're considered one player.
Yes.
Okay. I agree with that. You agree with that?
So they're all one player.
All one player.
So if you were to be very technical, it would be all one player plus the individual players.
Yes, but
So it
we're
is-
considering you still one player. In the counts of the game,
Okay.
it's one player.
Okay.
Okay?
So there's no longer. So it brings it down. Okay.
Yeah, but you are able to share resources within the conglomerate of one player.
Okay.
That makes sense?
That does make sense.
Okay.
So you still have autonomy, but
Yes. Okay. And
We're
break.
all one player now.